Today I'm going to show you how to build a 6-foot obelisk for about $10. Let's begin. Now to build this project, we're going to keep this really simple. I'm going to be using some 1x2 furring strips. These cost about $2 a piece and we're going to need 5 of them. Now all of our cuts are just going to be 90 degrees, so I'm going to use a miter saw. But if you don't have a miter saw, you could use a jigsaw, a circular saw, or even a hand saw if that's all you have. Now we want to look down those 5 furring strips and we want to pick out the 4 that are the straightest. These will be the legs. Now I've stacked all 4 boards together so I can make one quick cut. I'm going to cut 2 foot off of these legs, which will leave 6 foot. Now after you make your cuts, there's a good chance you're going to have some splinters sticking off the ends. Just take some sandpaper and knock that off. Just remember, these are going to be sitting outside in the weather, so I'm not too concerned about tiny imperfections. Now moving to that 5th board, we're actually going to cut this down into several pieces. We need 4 at 15.5 inches and 4 at 6.5 inches. Once you have all your pieces cut, you should have a piece that's about 7 inches left over. Don't throw this away, we're going to try and incorporate this later. Now moving back over to your 6-foot long legs, some of them are going to have some rough sides to them. We want those to be the inside, so it's less likely to be seen, so we're going to face them down for now. And if by chance your boards has some markings on them, this would be the time to sand them off, or if you don't care, place them towards the bottom so it'll be less likely to be seen. Now it's time to make some reference marks on our legs. We want to come down 12 inches from the top, make a mark, come up 12 inches from the bottom, make a mark, and then right dead in the middle, a 3rd one. Then give that mark to all the boards. Now when we go to assemble these, we need to make sure we have a good reference point. A nice flat surface for the base, and probably 90 degrees on the side so that we can get everything lined up in the center. Because if we don't, we'll have one shifted a little bit too much to the other and it won't look right. And it won't assemble right either. Now I've lined up everything on my workbench because I know my workbench is 2 feet wide and that'll just make everything really easy to work with. We're going to take a 2-foot long piece and we're going to put it right on those marks that we drew out earlier. We want to make sure that everything is lined up and centered on the other side as well. So once we get this in place, then we're going to go to that side and we're going to line it up and make sure everything is together before we attach it. Also keep in mind, we want to make sure that the boards that are going across are even with our reference marks on both sides so they're nice and straight across. Also, we don't want them protruding further than the edge, otherwise it'd be difficult to attach the others later. Now once we have all the cross pieces in place exactly where you want it, take a pencil and we want to make a reference mark on both sides of them so we know exactly where they sit because we need to take them back off. Now we're going to use some number 3 waterproof glue in between all these boards. Now to speed up this process, I'm going to use a brad nailer just to hold everything together while it dries. You don't have to have a brad nailer. You could use some screws or some nails or just add some clamps and give it some time. Now that we have the first side built, we're actually going to be using this as a template to build the opposite side. You want to lay out those next 2 boards in roughly the same shape as you did the first one, and then take your first side and you want to gently put it on top, making sure to line everything up as straight as possible. Then you want to take a pencil and you want to make a reference mark exactly where all the cross pieces connect. Then we want to remove the first side and take all the cross pieces and glue them in place just like we did the first side. Now once we have both sides complete, we want to attach them together at the same angle we did initially for the sides. Now to do that, it'd be easier probably to put this on the floor, but I'm actually going to try and assemble this on my workbench so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Now this is where having a second set of hands or a friend would be very helpful. Now once you get the first one on, the other 2 should go on much easier. Now here comes the hard part. I gotta rotate this 180 degrees without losing these connections. It's probably a little easier said than done. Let's give this a shot. Alright, that wasn't too bad. We do need to keep in mind that when you're doing this, try and keep your arms as steady as possible so it doesn't break the connection. And then of course, just repeat the process to add those horizontal pieces. Something like that. Now once you have everything secured in place, you should be able to pick it up and put it on its legs. Now this is the time to look at all of your connections. We want to make sure everything is nice and secure. If for some reason it doesn't look like it is, go in and add a couple of nails or screws wherever is needed to make it nice and sturdy. Now if we look at the top here, you'll notice that it is not secure. And over time, being out in the weather, these are most definitely going to warp and look really bad. So we're going to take that leftover piece that we had earlier, and we're going to measure it right in here, cut it to size, maybe even do some sanding so it fits really nicely on the corners here, and then we'll secure that in place. Now we're getting close to having this finished. There is one thing I highly recommend is taking some more of that number 3 glue and putting it on the base of every single leg. That'll help prevent some water absorption from going up into the legs and prematurely rotting it. Now keep in mind that this right here is just bare wood, and out in the elements it will deteriorate pretty quickly. So there's a couple things you should do. One, to change the look or color to maybe match your house or your garden, you could of course just paint this. And I would recommend using an outdoor, probably a latex type paint, and that'll help control some of that deterioration. Otherwise, if you prefer more of a natural look, go look for like a spar urethane, and that will allow you to keep some of that natural look, but hopefully help protect it from the weather. Now there's a great way to make a 6-foot tall climbing tower for your plants, or sometimes better known as an obelisk. Now of course if your plants are having a hard time growing on this, you can add some additional supports, whatever you would like. Now if you enjoyed this project, I have several other in the description you'll probably enjoy as well, so make sure you check them out. Otherwise, get out in the shop and have fun building.